Welcome to Two Guys in a Podcast. I'm Tom.
I'm Mikkel.
He's Mikkel. We're back with Mikkel for a little review of some trip planning. So if you are gonna, we just got done doing a video on your YouTube channel, MJs Adventures, and some of the things you do on there with the national parks and trail hiking and things. And today we're going to talk about how do you plan for such trips. So stand by while we get after it.
Shut up and sit down.
All right, welcome back. So again, Mikkel Jobert, a friend of mine, MJs Adventures on YouTube, on Facebook. Go out there, give him a like, give him a subscribe. Basically talk about some of the trips that you have on your channel that you've taken. You've taken some very large trips, let's say. And large trips meaning time frames, right? So 26-day trips and things like that. And that take a lot of planning, right? Because you're not going to one location for 26 days. You're going to 15 locations in those 26 days, or 10 locations, or whatever it might be. So what we wanted to do was talk a little bit about the planning phase of that, and how you get the idea, and then you say, okay, let's plan it. And the goal here is too, also for people to understand, while you're planning a 26-day trip, let's say, you're not planning all 26 days at the same time. You're doing little segments at a time along the route. So really, let's get into that. So I'm assuming you get an idea, right? And then you say, okay, let's start with this idea, and then start breaking it into segments.
Yeah, so let's take the 2016 trip that we did. We went to Grand Canyon. We did the five big one in Utah. We had some plans to do. First of all, I had a plan to do the Grand Canyon rim to rim. So
and that was probably the driving. That was the big thing. That was the epicenter of the trip.
Yeah, for me.
For you, yeah. Well, of course.
I had a backup plan too. I was going to propose to my wife also on that trip.
Which you did.
Which I did.
Yes, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
On a cliff.
Yeah, she had to work for it. Yeah. That's what she reminds me all the time.
Yeah. She hiked with you, right, on the trail. And then at the peak of the trail or whatever, yeah, you did it on bended knee. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Zion National Park, Angel Landings, very famous area. Probably a top 10 hike.
Now, because you got pictures of that, so were your kids with you?
No, it was just me and Pat.
And you had somebody take a picture?
Actually, I gave my camera to someone. I kind of waved the ring to kind of signal what I was going to do. He did not see the ring. But then he realized quickly what was happening, and he took like
nice
30 pictures.
Pretty awesome. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
But
all right, so
we knew we had the Grand Canyon. I kind of needed to figure it out. I had basically to plan around that. So
and real quick, you're in Michigan.
Yes, I'm in Michigan.
So you had to get from Michigan to the Grand Canyon.
That's part of the problem. Is a lot of times you have to get somewhere. It doesn't matter if you take a car, airplane. It takes time. So when you have X amount of dates that you have to work with it, the first thing you have to do is says, how long is it going to take me to get there? How long is it going to take me to come back? And take that out of the way.
Yep, those are your buffers,
because
if you will. You got to travel.
You have to travel.
Yeah.
Airplane, car, hiking, you still have to do it.
Yep.
So sometimes it's both. So
yeah.
it all depends on that. So that takes away the in and out. Then it gives you the amount of time in between. And you kind of have to figure out how long you want to stay at certain areas. So if you decide I want to take 2 days there or 3 days there, that takes away the time. And what I do is I basically take a calendar and I basically rate mark what I cannot use, and then from that point I figured out what it is.
Kind of fill in the blank.
Yeah, and then I have blanks. And then from the point it's like, okay, where we want to do. So I had in the back of my mind I wanted to go to Zion. So I knew I was going to go to Zion. So I plugged that in.
And that could have been, that doesn't necessarily mean that's your first stop.
No.
It's just where you wanted to plop that in, you plopped it in. So you're building like a timeline and you say, okay, these days I want to be here.
And in Zion's I wanted to do two things. I wanted to climb the, basically Angel Landing, and I wanted to do the Narrows. The Narrows is a trail that goes into the river, and basically you can see a beautiful area. But we had planned for that. So 2 days to 2 trails.
Just real quick, is that the one where you walked through the river?
Yes.
Because there were areas of the river that were fairly shallow, and you literally, the trail is the river.
Correct.
You
Yes.
have to be in the river to go through that. I remember that one too.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yep. And so I had 2 days for that. We also had 1 day in North Rim, 1 day South Rim, and then a rest day after that. So I knew I had a few days there. And then from that point is, how do I want to go back to Michigan from that point? And then, okay, where do I go before I get there? Because you don't want to do something like the Grand Canyon and just arriving there, not be acclimated to the altitude, the temperature. You want a few days prior.
Yeah, because you were going to undertake a pretty physical activity.
Correct.
Like if you're going just to sit there and look,
No.
then you can be in and out.
Yeah.
But you were actually hiking for 13 hours
So
in heat and elevation.
yeah, you have to be trained and prepared for it.
Yep.
So to do that, you basically pick up a couple of things and you go around. And then from that point, I says, all right, we're going to stop at a place called Dinosaur Monument in Colorado. So when we left Michigan, so I wanted to go Rocky Mountain National Park. So that's basically driving from Michigan to Colorado.
Yeah, but hang on. So you had at this point on your timeline, you had your major, I got to be here on this date, I got to be here on this date.
Correct.
And now what you're doing is you're basically saying, okay, I'm going to go from here to here.
Yeah.
What can I do along the way?
Correct,
Right.
yes.
Now you're filling in the rest of those days.
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
So-
good.
So,
So you went from Michigan to
Colorado, Rocky Mountain
National
yeah.
Forest.
So
or park, right?
we don't know at this point where we're going to stay. I'm just trying to get the plan of where I want to be.
Yeah, the overall,
Yeah.
right?
Later in time, I figured out where we're going to sleep.
Specifically.
Yeah. So this Rocky Mountain was one of my stops. Then my next stops were the Dinosaur Monument because my wife, fiance at the time, but my wife wanted to go there because she wanted to see the dinosaur on the rocks. She saw some videos about it. She goes, I want to see that.
Well, technically not your fiance even yet.
Yeah, she wasn't even. Yeah, she was a girlfriend.
Yeah, let's clarify. It's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from that point, we wanted to go to Moab, Utah, where you have arches and canyonland, and then also you have some jeep trails. So the point was, we already been to arches and canyonland, but I have a couple trails I wanted to try with my new jeep. So we did a few trails in there. So I had a few days figured out from that. And then from that point, I wanted to go to Capitol Reef, and then from Capitol Reef to Bryce, and then Zion. That way, I do all mighty 5 of Utah.
Nice.
One trip, all 5.
So as you're saying, okay, we're going to go from here to here to here to here to here,
Yeah.
and you're kind of roughly thinking that's 1 day, 2 days, 1 day, 3 days.
That's it.
And you know that you want to be at Zion at let's say day 17, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
You're filling in those blanks with just the generalities of where you want to stop along the way. And really it's on your route.
Correct.
So you're still constantly moving forward to your
Going-
destination, ultimate destination.
Correct.
But you're hitting things along the way. You might even deviate a little bit, but you're doing it to keep going forward to that destination. But you're like, what else can we see along the way?
Correct,
Right?
yeah, because
So that's where these little mini trips come in, right?
you don't want to do, 10 hours of driving every day.
Yeah, you break it up.
You have to come up with some breaks. Now, the first day you may decide, we're going to go all night long to arrive at this spot, and then the next day you only have a 4-hour
But
drive.
yeah, then the
So-
schedule begins. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But before we do that I'm trying to figure out where I want to go and then figure out if it makes sense. Do we want to do that first or that? And just come up and trying to come up with a
Yeah.
filling up the time frame. And then from-
Almost like you plot like a spaghetti
Yeah.
diagram where you're drawing out, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to go here, we're going to go here, we're
yeah,
going to go here.
and you look at the map and you look at it, says, hey, does this make sense? Is that too long?
You're drawing your circle, in essence,
Yeah.
a big, because correct me if I'm wrong, you made a huge circle around the U.S.
That is
basically.
That's the 2018 trip.
Yeah, but basically,
Yeah.
that's kind of, well, even with this one, you kind of went out and back, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So, but you did it in a logical sequence, I guess.
Hopefully it was
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah.
But you weren't backtracking hours and yeah.
No. We
And these are all little mini trips.
Yep.
Technically, you're just going, instead of going from your house to there, you're going from your previous destination to the next one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that way you can also figure out the timing, how much driving you're going to do.
Yeah.
And that is something I write on the side. I write, okay, how much driving is that going to be? And then I basically say, how much money is it going to cost? So I put a $2.50 gallon, put that in there, so I know the cost of that travel. And then when I see something that is too big, I'm thinking, okay, should we do something a little bit differently?
Yeah.
Kind of rethink this whole thing. But then you have that basis, you have that plan.
Rough outline. Yeah,
the plan of what you want to do. And then you go into the details, says, okay, where are we going to stay?
Right. Campground or hotel. Mostly, 99% of the time you're staying in a campground.
Yeah, we do a couple hotels just to clean up.
Yeah.
It's easier to go in the bathroom and
Shower,
shower, and sometimes it's a little bit better to break it off a little bit. So I will, for a trip that is 2 to 3 weeks, we'll do 2 to 3 hotels to break it up. But that is kind of where everybody's needs comes up. So when you're trying to travel to national parks, you want to be prepared to reserve 6 months in advance.
Yeah, you got to really plan these things out.
So
you can't just show up and say, "Hey, I want a site."
You might.
You might. Better to properly plan.
Yes.
Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. 6 P's. Remember that.
So
Especially when you're hiking and camping, right?
Yes.
Proper planning prevents bad things from happening.
yeah. So basically, at that point, you have to do this well in advance. You have to plan almost. I would say the rough outline. You want to have that done 8 months in advance to know where you want to sleep and where you want to reserve the right date. It's 6 months in advance.
Yeah.
Because if you are the first one, you have the proper way of going in. So some parks, you'll be fine. Some, you might.
Yeah, some they fill up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some it's
So
kinda hard to get
Grand Canyon, South Rim, had to order it 6 months in advance.
Right.
Or I was not.
Or you're gonna miss
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we wanted 2 nights there. Because I was going to arrive late at night for my hiking, and I wanted to have a rest day the next day, so I wanted to sleep 2 nights. So I had to have 2 nights, so we needed to be there.
So you got to plan that in advance.
Zion was the same thing. I know I'm not going to find a campground, and even the parking is difficult when you get to Zion. It's so busy in the summer. So we had to have, 6 months in advance, the day of, I was on, and I was trying to reserve places.
Yep.
So that's so important.
That's a big tip right there.
Yeah.
Big tip.
It's
Don't get caught at the last minute going, man, I wish we would have done this earlier, right?
now you're going to find yourself in a private campground, and you're going to be paying
Away from everything.
You're going to be paying $50-$60 for camping, and you'll have to drive 30-40 miles to get to the entrance of the park.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of wasted time.
Yeah. So properly plan those out in advance.
Yeah.
Good.
So from that point, it's kind of the big chunk of the whole thing, and then after that, you're basically trying to figure it out. Okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah. What are we going to do? We got a full day. Let's say 16 hours. What are we going to fill that 16 hours up with? And if you're not micromanaging every minute, but kind of it's going to be 4 hours slot here, 3 hour slot here, lunch will be this, whatever.
Yeah, I don't go that much of a detail, but I know what I'm going to do.
Rough ideas,
a lot of things I'm hearing from people that I go there and says, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah, have it planned out.
Yeah, you figure what you want to see. So Zion's, we knew we were going to do the Narrows, and we were going to climb Angel's Landing. Turned out that the first day we arrived there, we were going to arrive, put the tent up, and then go hiking. My wife, halfway into it, she's like, I can't, it's too hot, I cannot do it.
Yeah, she
and
just
this
chilled.
is when I was going to propose to her, so I'm like, this is not going to work out.
Kind of a little monkey wrench there.
So I had to change on the fly. Well, I gave myself some time and gave myself some leeways.
Yeah.
So we were leaving 2 days later, and versus leaving straight from the campground, we decided to get up early and go again and try that hike early in the morning where it's not hot and be able to do it.
And you guys are rested.
That was my rest day before my Grand Canyon adventure,
Yeah.
so it was a little bit risky, but we did it. I proposed, she was really happy, and the next day I had to leave for 13 hours. But
Your honeymoon was hiking in the Grand Canyon alone.
well, I didn't get married, I
That's
proposed.
true, good point. So what's really good about that is that's a really good example, right? Of, yes, you're planning out your trip, and ultimately this trip you took, 20 some days, right? So it was very, from a higher level, it was very detailed,
Yep.
right? From this day, we're going to drive 8 hours to go to here.
Yep.
But minute by minute, when you're in it, you had flexibility to be able to change things.
Plenty
up.
of time.
You're like, hey, we're going to be here for 2 days. If we want to flip this hike from tonight to tomorrow and that from here to here, then you have that flexibility because you're not like, no, we have to, this says at 1640 we have to be at a certain
Yeah,
place.
you have to be careful with that because
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
yourself in big trouble.
Well,
with that.
you'll forget your surroundings, right?
So Moab, I wanted to do 3 trails in Moab And you know, when I arrived at the first one, I cut it short because I realized how much time it was taking and how much if I was going to continue forcing myself in that trail, I was going to.
You're going to miss out on something else.
I was not going to. So we kind of, the first opportunity, we went out.
Cut off.
We were in a fin and thin, and we did that. And then I'm like, you know what? After the first part, I went out. I went and did Hell's Revenge. So that was the main one I wanted to do. I did it. It was great. It was fun. And then we wanted to go into Canyonland and drive the Schaffer Highway. It's basically a very much a dirt road that is one of the most dangerous roads in America. So I wanted to do that. So we drove that.
Is that the one you almost?
No.
That was a different trip that your Jeep almost went over the.
That was 2018. Yeah.
That's another story.
It's another story, yeah. So that is, you know, you have to have flexibility.
Yeah.
And then the next day, we wanted to go to Capitol Reef, place I'd never been to, and I was told that if you go in a certain way, you have a river crossing. Never done a river crossing before, so that was exciting. But they told me many times. I read a lot of information saying, if it's not possible, just
don't try it.
Be ready to change your plans. So I had a plan B. So as we were going into Capitol Reef, I'm not far from the river, so I deviate, go see the river. I see the river is really low. I'm thinking, yes, we're good. So went back to the campsite we reserved, dumped all of my equipment, and then from that point go for the drive. And
so you had that flexibility kind of thing.
You have to plan.
You got to be flexible on it, especially on a trip like this, right? Where you're not going to a single destination and doing 10 things. You're going to 10 destinations and doing 10 things,
yeah.
right?
So you have to plan and plan B and doing this. So that's kind of the way. Another example, in 2018, I was planning a bigger trip and I wanted to climb Mount Whitney.
This is your big circle, right?
That's the big circle. That's in California. I wanted to plan it. You have to have basically a pass to do it, and you have to get it, and it's a lottery.
You got to apply for it.
You have to apply for it, and it's a lottery. They can only allow so many people on the mountain.
Really, that was your step one. See if I can get the pass.
It wasn't the main reason, but it was something in my bucket list.
You had to do that early.
I wanted to do this, but
in your plan.
Yes, but the problem is I had to plan ahead before I would know if I would have it or not. So I had to have a plan B if I didn't get that. We needed to, so that's where it's really important when you do big trips like that to not be so stuck on it. Turned out that day, even if I would have got the pass, major thunderstorm, impossible. It would have been impossible for me to do it. So if I was so dead set at doing it, I would have been so disappointed.
Yeah, it would have ruined your trip.
It would not have done it. So I had to have plan B. Plan B turned out to be great. And it actually didn't even turn out that great, but it was a great day because we did plan. We drove in the Death Valley, and I wanted to go to the rest track, what is a place where the rocks move magically, and leave tracks on there. And I didn't want to take the easy way out. I wanted to take the back way out. So I spent 6 hours.
And that wouldn't have happened.
No.
If your plan A would have happened.
No, if plan A, I would have done the easy way out.
Yeah.
And I would have done it. But we did it. Turned out that road got washed out. So we couldn't finish it, but just the amount of drive. That destination was great, but the drive was awesome.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to realize that things don't work out. Just be ready to.
But it didn't ruin the trip.
No.
I mean, it was a long trip. Was it 20? That was almost 30
26 days.
26-day trip. So you stopped at two dozen places.
So we started with that trip. We started from Michigan. We drove all the way to Theodore Roosevelt National Park, what is in North Dakota. Then from that point, we went to Glacier National Park in Montana. And then from that point, we drove to Cascade, North Cascade, what is a park that is beautiful, but most people don't go see because it's, I don't know why, but it's beautiful. Then from that point, we went to Olympic, what is by Seattle. We went to Mont Rainier. Then we went to Mont St. Helens. And frankly, Mont St. Helens blew me away. Get the pont here.
Look it up.
You look it
Google
up.
it.
Actually, a beautiful park. I
Yeah.
did not spend enough time.
Yeah.
I only planned it for an hour and a half to 2 hours, just as we were going through it.
Just kind of going by.
Just made a huge mistake there because when I arrived there, it was at sunset and the place looked beautiful. I thought the nature, since it happened in 1980, for the people that Google it, now that you know, I assumed that nature would have took over and it would not be as
Right.
beautiful as it was. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And it's something to put in market going back.
Going
you
back,
know?
there you go. So that's another thing too, right along this trip, you're like, hey, we want to come back and do this again at some point. Right?
Yeah, and that's
which is pretty cool to do.
Yeah, that's part of the thing is we are doing short trips. We are doing small little areas. We do not visit the whole thing. So it is the point of, hey, do I want to go back? Next time I know a little bit more about it, I can do a little bit more things because we are learning. It's all about the learning part.
Yeah, and instead of a pass through next time, it's a destination. And
could
we're
be
gonna spend 2 days there, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna really immerse into the culture of that and everything else. And that's cool.
So, you know, Glacier, we spent 2 days. Well, we arrived late in the afternoon. We spent a whole day and we left sometime in the mid-morning. So I only had a plan for a couple of things to do. Well, when I was there, I learned about a few other things. So we kind of adapted, spent a little bit more time, knew that we were adding more drive to the next destination, but it was enjoyable. So I have a little bit of flexibility.
It's a give and take, yeah.
Yeah. So I drove a little bit more at night than I wanted to. When you're in the mountains, you don't really want to do that, but if you want to do something else, you may want to plan for that.
A little give and take, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
So
the goal really on whether you're planning a big trip meaning 26 days, 24 destinations, right, things like that, or a 3-day weekend, right?
Yeah.
The mentality is kind of the same deal. You're in essence on a 26-day trip. You're in essence stringing a bunch of 1, 2, 3-day trips together,
Yep.
right? And have a big picture, right? Have a 50,000-foot view. Literally, I think your map. You showed me your map. I think literally it was a big circle in a big circle in the U.S. Right?
Yeah, we can add it. I think
Yeah,
we can add
it's
that
pretty
too,
cool.
so you
It's
can
a
see
pretty
it.
cool one. We'll add that in there because it's pretty cool. You traveled what 10,000. I mean, you put some miles on. But if you're going, you know, an hour away to a campground or to an attraction somewhere, you can do the same kind of planning as Mikhail did, right? Yours is just times 10, right? Whereas, so the key things are, number one, proper planning, right? Prevents poor performance. So remember that one. Plan these things out, and you don't got to be micromanagement planned out, but you want to a degree you want to, because especially if you're stringing multiple things together and you have certain times and dates you have to be places, you want to make sure you're hitting those marks. But also understand you can have some flexibility and adaptability, right? If plan A doesn't happen, plan B is going to be just as good, and let's go that route. So those are really good tips for planning trips, I think.
Yeah, I think the main goal of it is plan what you want to do, and then fill the gaps and with something that, in case it doesn't work out, you have something to play with.
Yeah, right. And then propose in Zion.
You
On a
know
cliff.
that
On a cliff. We got to throw a picture in there of that.
Yeah,
That was cool.
It's something that it's good for the memory.
And she had no idea.
No, not a clue.
No idea, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right, awesome. Well, there you go. There's some good tips for planning out whether short trip, big trip. Get out there, right? Get out there and take advantage of your time and energy if you can. See the beautiful country we have here. And again, Mikhail's been kind of all over the world, technically, with more things planned for your future.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. MJs Adventures, right here is the logo right there. MJs Adventures on YouTube, Facebook. Give them a like, give them a subscribe. Thanks for coming by Two Guys in a Podcast, and we'll be back at you soon with more content. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.